Is Kim Mulkey padding LSU's schedule? Yes. Yes, she is. But in my opinion, it does make sense. Let's get into it. So what is up, awesome people of the internet? In my previous video, I asked you all if you wanted me to make a video talking about LSU's non-conference schedule. You requested it, so here we go. The defending national champs LSU women's basketball team is looking to defend their title in Coach Kim Mulkey's third season with the team. The Tigers bring back stars Angel Reese, Flau'jae Johnson, and they add transfers Haley Van Lith and Anissa Morrow with an incoming #1 freshman class. LSU is a member of the SEC, which in my opinion is the toughest conference for women's basketball, because not only do you have LSU, you have South Carolina, Tennessee, and to a slightly lesser extent, you have Coach Yo and Ole Miss and Coach Elzy and Kentucky, who are very competitive. So while I think LSU is the most talented roster in the SEC right now, it's very likely that they will have a tough road in conference play coming ahead. And because of that, I think that Coach Kim Mulkey wanted to make sure that LSU's non-conference schedule was going to be pretty easy for this team. Now, what I wanted to do is I actually wanted to go through every single team that LSU plays week by week to let you all know some information about these teams and give you sort of a hint of what you can probably expect. Spoiler alert, LSU should dominate just about every single team they play this season. All right, so let's get started with the non-conference schedule. So before the season actually starts, LSU has 2 exhibition games slash preseason games, you can kind of think of it as. They play East Texas Baptist on October the 26th, and they play Loyola New Orleans on November the 1st. On November 6th, LSU kicks off their season in Las Vegas, playing in the Hall of Fame series, and that they play actually against Colorado. And Colorado is actually a pretty good team. Last season, they reached the Sweet 16 before falling to Iowa. And they are returning 4 of their starters. So yes, LSU should win this game, but it should be a fun game and pretty competitive as well. On November 9th, LSU has their first home game playing against Queen's University of Charlotte. So if you have never heard of this school before, no worries, because I hadn't either. Queens plays in the South Atlantic Conference. And last year, Queens finished with a record of 8-21. In week 2, LSU plays Mississippi Valley State. And this is a school that, to me, has one of the worst team names ever. They literally call themselves the Develettes. So, anyway, they play in the SWAC. And last year, they had a record of 2-27. Mississippi Valley State did play LSU last season, and they got demolished. They lost 41-111. So I think we can kind of assume that it's going to be a similar scoreline for this season when they play. So on November 14th, LSU plays Kent State. So Kent State plays in the Mid-American Conference, and they actually weren't that bad last year record-wise. They finished 21-11. They typically do play teams around their same level of talent. And so this game against LSU is a little bit surprising for them, just because LSU is just so much more way out of their league than the teams that they usually play. So this is going to be a very interesting game. Of course, it's going to be a blowout, but it's just a matter of how much of a blowout is this game going to be. And to round out week 2, LSU plays Southeastern. So Southeastern plays in the Sun Conference, and last year they had a record of 14-15. For week 3, LSU plays Texas Southern on November the 20th. Like Mississippi Valley State, Texas Southern plays in the SWAC. Last season, Texas Southern had a record of 2-27. So yeah, pretty terrible. They did play Ole Miss last season, and they lost pretty badly, 93-47. Ole Miss was, I would say, their stiffest competition last season. And that's why I kind of wanted to bring it out, just so you kind of know kind of where they land in terms of talent. So for November the 24th and the 25th, LSU head to the Cayman Islands for the Cayman Islands Classic. They play Niagara and Virginia. So let's actually do a quick detour to talk about this tournament. So yes, the Classic is called a tournament, and it is a tournament for the men because they do have brackets and there will be a game to determine the champion. However, that is not the case for the women's version. LSU will only play Niagara and Virginia, and that's it. There is no brackets and no champion. So unfortunately, for women's basketball fans, we will not be able to see LSU versus UConn or even LSU versus UCLA in the tournament. Both UConn and UCLA are in the tournament, and those three teams are probably the top teams in the tournament, though it's not really a tournament. And don't worry, we are going to get to why I think Kim Mulkey is avoiding UConn at the end, but let's get through the rest of LSU's schedule first. So let's talk about Niagara. Both them and Virginia are in the tournament because they received WNIT bids last year. Though talent-wise, they just can't compete against LSU at all. They do play in the Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference, and last year they had a record of 18-13. The toughest team that Niagara played against last season was Northwestern, who beat them 76-38. Now let's get to Virginia, who is actually a solid team. They play in the ACC, and last year they had a record of 15-15. So that is who LSU plays in the Cayman Islands tournament. After the tournament, LSU plays their toughest non-conference opponent, which is Virginia Tech. Now, Virginia Tech is a very good team. They return stars Elizabeth Kitley and Georgia Amore. And if you remember, the Hokies actually gave the Tigers a run for their money last season in the Final Four. So I think we can expect a really, really good game. Last year, Virginia Tech finished with a record of 31-5. So of all the games to look forward to, I think you should look forward to this Virginia Tech and LSU game because that's going to be our opportunity to really see where LSU really is in terms of like talent-wise, because the teams before them are not very talented. Virginia Tech is, and I am very much looking forward to this game. For week 5, LSU plays Louisiana Lafayette. Louisiana Lafayette plays in the Sun Belt Conference, and last year they had a record of 16-15. And on December the 12th, LSU plays McNeese State. They play in the Southland Conference. Last season, the McNeese Cowgirls had a record of 12-19. Their toughest competition last year was against Ohio State, who beat them 99-43. On December 17th, LSU plays Northwestern State. And Northwestern State is another team that has a terrible team name. They call themselves the Lady Demons, and they also play in the Southland Conference. And last season, they had a record of 11-18. They did play LSU last year, and they got whooped 100-45. So I think we can kind of expect a similar routing this season. On December 20th, LSU heads to Angel Reese's hometown of Baltimore to play Coppin State. So Coppin State plays in the MEAC, and last year they had a record of 8-22. And to finish off non-conference play for LSU, LSU plays against Jacksonville on December the 30th. So last year, Jacksonville finished with a record of 12-17. All right, guys, so those are the non-conference games that LSU plays this season. Now let's talk about it. So this schedule is super, super easy. LSU should easily whoop all of these teams, with the exception of Virginia Tech. Yes, I do believe they will beat the Hokies, but they won't win by as big of a margin as they will beat these other teams. I've heard people call LSU's schedule easy, a cakewalk, embarrassing. I've heard people say that LSU is scared of real competition and that they dodge playing tough competition, including in that Cayman Islands tournament when they had an opportunity to play UConn. And to all of that, I say, yeah, you might be right. But above all things, Kim Mulkey is a smart coach. And in my opinion, she wanted to play a bunch of easy games to pad their record and have the stars of the team fresh and ready to compete in SEC play. And of course, make it as far as they possibly can in the NCAA tournament. So in their non-conference games, LSU only plays 6 games against teams that were in the postseason last year. And it's smart when you really think about it, because yes, from a basketball fan's perspective, it's not fun to see LSU dodge better teams. But if I have to be totally honest, if I was Kim Mulkey, I would do the same exact thing. The non-conference games don't matter at all. The only thing that actually matters is SEC play. So if you just get through the non-conference games and you get your younger players some additional experience and you rest your stars, that seems like a smart play as you get ready for the grind of the SEC. LSU doesn't have to prove themselves at all. They already did last season with the NCAA championship. And oh, by the way, last season, the non-conference games were also easy for LSU. So I don't think this schedule will come back to bite LSU at all because, again, they are in the toughest conference, which is the SEC. So it's not like they're dodging all types of tough competition. They're not. They're still going to be playing South Carolina. They're still going to be playing Tennessee. They're still going to be playing good teams in SEC play. And so some of y'all may be comparing LSU's schedule to UConn's non-conference schedule that they put out. And to that, I really say hold your brakes on that because this is not the same thing at all. I don't think it makes sense to compare LSU's non-conference schedule with UConn's non-conference schedule. Let's talk about why. So LSU plays in the SEC. Again, as I keep mentioning, they are one of the toughest conferences to play in for women's basketball. And UConn plays in the Big East, which is a conference that is not good in women's basketball. It's a conference that only really has UConn. UConn has no real good teams to compete against. They had some competition when they would play DePaul because last season, because that's where Anissa Morrow was. But now that Anissa Morrow is gone from DePaul and now is at LSU, DePaul wasn't really that big of a challenge for UConn, but they were more of a challenge than I think other teams because of Anissa Morrow. Basically, UConn has no actual competition in their conference play. So to me, UConn's non-conference schedule is similar to what will be LSU's conference schedule and vice versa. So yeah, that's what I have to say about this UConn thing. And don't worry, I do have a UConn video in the works going over their non-conference schedule in a very similar way to what I just did for LSU. So if you're like, wait, who exactly is UConn playing? Don't worry, I'll go over it. But spoiler alert, they are going to be playing South Carolina. So that should be fun. All right, guys, that is the video. Let me know what you all think about the competition that LSU will face in non-conference play. And if you think it's a smart idea for Kim Mulkey to avoid tough competition until SEC play starts. As a reminder, we do not have the SEC schedule that LSU will be playing. When we do have that, I will, of course, update you all and make a video about it. And also, I do plan on doing more overviews of other teams' non-conference schedules. Let me know the teams that you want me to make a video about, and I will make sure to make that happen. As always, I really thank you all so much for watching, and I hope you learned something new. Or if anything, I hope you learned about some universities that you may or may not have ever heard about. And also, I hope you learned a little bit about their records as well. If you did learn something, or at least if you thought that this video was entertaining, I am trying to improve the graphics. So let me know what y'all think about the graphics. If you did enjoy this video, please do me a favor and like this video. Also, please consider subscribing for more women's basketball coverage. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And until next time, guys. Bye.